Okay, so we've talked a little bit about unwrapping optionals, and again, I know that's a very complex topic. It won't come in till our second textbook, actually, and it'll come in much, much later in the book. But like I said, I'd like to introduce that early so that you get used to what exactly you're seeing whenever you see these exclamation points and these question marks, because they really do throw people off quite a bit. All right, so let's just run this just to talk about where we're at again. So we have this solution label.text, and whenever we hit this button, it's going to take the number from field 1 and the number from field 2 and add them together. But whenever we actually do this in practice, it adds those two strings together because it's actually giving us two separate strings. Whoops, did not hit the stop button. Let me go back. It added the two strings together, right? It did this sort of hi hello thing that's going on here, which is what happens whenever you add two strings together. Instead, we actually want to add the value of that number, which is going to be something like a variable conversion, right? We're going to need to convert this to an integer. Let's just say for now, just for the simplicity, we're only working with integers and not decimals. So if we had two variables that were both integers, let's say number 1, and it was an int, and it was equal to 0 by default, and then we had a second number, and also an int, and it was equal to 0. Actually, let's have this one equal to 4 and this one equal to 3, just to make this code a little bit shorter. And then we did, let's say we had number 3, which was also an int, and it was equal to 0. It could even be an int optional, actually, if we wanted to. But let's say it's equal to 0. And then if we did number 3 solution equals number 1 plus number 2, then we're going to get our proper solution of 7, right? This is pretty easy. We've done this before. So how can we replicate this? Well, what we could do, we could try to do it all in one line. I'm not going to recommend that because I think that's going to be pretty hard for someone who's new to programming to read. So let's do it over a couple lines. I want to keep this here just so I have it to reference to. I'm going to just comment it out for now. You'll notice I use comments a lot in my projects. Again, that's just me. This is totally my style. So it's up to you however you want to approach that. So let's say we want to declare a new variable each time this button is pressed. So whenever this button is pressed, this variable is going to be generated. So let's do a variable called number 1, and it's going to be set to 0 by default. Okay, let's make one called number 2, and we'll set that to 0 by default. But what we're not going to worry about these errors. What I really want to do is have these set to equal to the value from this. So I'm going to grab the value from this and set it equal to this. So let's grab the value from our text field. Let's do that by saying int number 1 field.text. And we're going to need to put that exclamation point in there because that is an optional. We need to properly unwrap it. All right, let's do this again with this line. We're not going to worry about this this thing that's appearing. Basically, what this is saying is, hey, you never actually use number 1. So, all right, and number 2 field.text, same format. So what we're saying is, hey, when this button is hit, make a new variable called number 1. What's the value of that? Well, it's an int conversion of this string. So it's basically we're taking this string and we're going to convert it to an int, and that's going to be the value of number 1. Let's make another variable called number 2. We're going to take the value of that string, convert it to an int, and that's now number 2. So then let's have our solution variable or something like that, and we'll say it is number 1 plus number 2. Great. And it's going to give us that same error before because these are technically optionals. because there may not be a number in this whenever it's generated. So just do that same format, and we should be good. All right. Don't worry about all of this stuff. Again, it's not that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and do our label text is going to equal solution variable. But here's the problem. This is an int, right? And our label text is a string, so we'll convert this to a string as well. And guess what? We're going to need that exclamation point. So I think we do. Oh, no, never mind. We're good. We don't need an exclamation point this time. And I'm going to leave that error in the video because I think that's a good error to see. So what all these yellow errors, and yellow errors usually you can just ignore. What these are saying is that basically it was never mutated, meaning we never actually changed this. So you might as well make it a constant. Honestly, I mean, we're working in a modern era where, we're not worried about things taking up space as far as variables versus constants. I guess theoretically we could change all of these to say let. We've been working with that, so let's do that just to be proper. But really, there's no real reason to. I guess the reason to prefer one or the other is that constants are more efficient, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day. All right, so what we've done here, it's pretty simple. We declare 3 constants, not variables. Again, doesn't really matter. And each one of those is grabbing a value. So this one's grabbing the value of our text field and converting it to an integer. This one's grabbing the value of the next text field and converting it to an integer. This one's adding those two together. And then last but not least, we are taking the label and setting the label equal to that solution. So let's hit play and just take a look at that. All right, so let's give it 2 plus 3, and we got 5. Awesome. And if I change this to another number, it'll keep working. Nice. All right, so, I keep doing that. Don't hit the stop button. We go back to my view controller. So now what I'm going to do, pretty simple. This is the format that we're going to use. I'm just going to, actually, I'll leave that line there for now. I'm going to grab all this code, copy it, and I'm just going to paste it into this. The only thing that we need to change is this. We need to add a little subtraction there. Let's do the same thing with this line. This is the multiply button. The only thing we need to change is this plus. Let's change it to an asterisk. And lastly, the divide button, we can take this and change it to a slash. All right, let's hit play and see if it works. All right, so we got, let's do 5 and 5. So plus is 10, minus is 0, times is 25, and divided is 1. Awesome, so it works beautifully. So the only thing that we haven't fixed yet is, obviously we can put other numbers into this, like letters and things like that, which will in fact crash our entire program. So we need to find some solutions to that. I'm going to show you how to do that in the next video, or at least 1 or 2 solutions for that. But basically, this was a pretty simple way of building this calculator. We could actually dive quite a bit deeper into this and do all of this on one line. Maybe I'll show you that in a future video. But if we were using functions with arguments and things like that, we could actually do all this in 1 or 2 lines instead of having to do it over about 50 lines of code. So regardless, doesn't really matter. Yeah, so hopefully you got something kind of near this in your project. If not, that's fine. Whatever works for you, works.